Hello and welcome to our property damage vlog on the CIRIA Code of Practice for Property Flood Resilience. I'm Rosemary Scott, an associate here at BLM, and I'm joined today by Graham Brogden from GJB Consultancy. Graham previously worked for Aviva as the head of technical claims and was the former chair of the DEFRA Property Flood Resilience Roundtable. Graham now works in a consultancy and advisory role with a focus on PFR. Welcome, Graham.
Thank you. Hello.
Today, Graham and I will be discussing briefly what the CIRIA Code of Practice is, what it includes, and where you can find the detail. For those of you that might not be aware, CIRIA stands for the Construction Industry Research and Information Association. CIRIA are an independent, not-for-profit body who seek to work across the construction industry with a view to identifying best practice, to develop new approaches, and in order to identify and enable innovation. CIRIA have been involved in the production of the Code of Practice relating to PFR. So Graham, how did the Code of Practice come about?
Yeah, so following the creation of the DEFRA Roundtable in 2016, our early discussions soon established that standards needed to be improved. At the time, there were very few standards in place when it came to property flood resilience, or PFR. One of the actions in the original action plan was to influence building regulations, but it soon became clear that getting any changes to building regs or creating a new regulation was not going to be achievable in the timescale we'd set out. So in discussion with a member of CIRIA, the Chartered Institute of Water and Environmental Management, we came up with the idea to develop a code of practice.
Okay, so you've mentioned that CIRIA were involved. Can you tell us a little bit more about who else was involved in the development of the Code of Practice?
Yeah, well, firstly, we needed to secure the funding for the project, and we got our two main sponsors on board fairly quickly, which were Aviva and the Environment Agency, and this allowed us to get started straight away. Other sponsors then came on board, the Scottish Government, the Welsh Government, and the Department for Infrastructure in Northern Ireland. And this allowed us to continue and deliver the project. CIRIA were appointed to project manage the development, and they put together an authoring team, which was led by the Building Research Establishment, or the BRE. And then a steering committee was formed to check everything as the development of the code was happening. And that was made up of about 30 people from across the industry. And that's the insurance industry, the flood industry, and government bodies. So a number of people involved in that.
Okay, so you've given us a bit of an overview as to how it came about and who was involved. But I think it'd be useful to understand what the Code of Practice consists of. So can you provide a little bit of detail about that?
Yeah, the actual Code of Practice is a large technical document that covers everything for PFR, but essentially it's made up of 6 standards, and each standard has a number of aims that need to be met in order to achieve each standard. So the first standard in there is the hazard assessment. This is obviously looking at the risk to the property and the type of flooding that's likely to affect it, and building all that in, the topography and everything. The second standard is the property survey itself. This is a full inclusive survey of the property to look at all the entry points of water and look at what can be done to protect that property based on its construction. Following that, the next standard is the options development itself, which is taking that survey and putting together a list of options that are best going to protect that property. Next standard is the construction, and this is obviously where these products are going to be installed, and ensuring that all those aims are met to achieve that standard, to ensure that that construction has been carried out properly, professionally, and it actually has been tested to show that it works. The next one is commissioning and handover. So the commissioning, following on from the testing, but it's also important to let the customer know exactly what they've got and what each item is playing a role in protecting their property. And then following that, the final standard is the operation and maintenance, ensuring that whatever you are fitting on the property, the property owner knows how to install it or how to operate it, whether that's a flood door or a barrier, and then also, more importantly, how to maintain it. There's also a property owner's guide, which is a much shorter document, and this is aimed at helping property owners understand where they need to go and what they need to look for when they're procuring PFR. And then later this month or early next month, we'll be releasing a planner's guide, which is aimed at planners for new build and hopefully getting resilience into new builds.
Okay, so you've touched briefly on it in that answer about who will use the code of practice, but what is the audience for the code of practice? Who will and who should use it?
Yeah, well, quite frankly, it's anybody and everybody who plays a part in providing PFR. Certainly flood professionals, so anybody that's going to be carrying out surveys, whether it's a risk survey, property survey, or installing products or specifying products. But insurers as well, insurers will get involved with PFR following flood events on properties. And obviously the property owners themselves as well, through the property owner's guide, really understanding what they're having done is being done. So it covers basically everybody. Okay.
So given the wide range of people who will and should use the code of practice, is there any training available for people?
Yeah, so there are some courses already out there, a couple that were put together during the development of the code of practice. But CIRIA have just been appointed by the Environment Agency to develop a new suite of training, and the first module of that training will be ready, I believe, in August, or late July, early August. Yeah.
All right. Okay. No, that's good to know. Well, thank you very much, Graham, for enlightening us on the code of practice and providing some useful insights as to how the code of practice came about and who was involved in its development, as well as highlighting who it will be of use to. You can download the full code of practice for free from the CIRIA website at www.ciria.org. Over the coming weeks, we here at BLM will be developing a series of podcasts on a number of different flood-related topics, one of which will be the CIRIA Code of Practice and whether it's the starting point for market confidence. So please do keep an eye out for this series. Thank you everyone for watching, and if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to get in touch using the details on this slide. Thank you.